2024 Oakwood City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me with the pledge to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please, Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mrs. Turbin? Here. Mrs. Jackson?
And may I have a report on the minutes of our March 4th regular session and work session and March 11 work session? Councilmember Jackson.
Yes, Your Honor. I've reviewed the minutes from the meetings and the work sessions and found them to be accurate and complete.
Is there a second?
Second.
Or do you want to move that we approve them?
I do want to move to.
Okay, and do we have a second? Second? Okay.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, so ordered. We have under status reports, our city manager has our first status report, so I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I mentioned to you in our executive session recently, a few minutes ago, today's a special day for me. It was exactly 22 years ago today, April 1st, 2002, when I sat at the dais in the old council chamber, which now is somewhere near the second floor training room above the chief's office there. And that was my first day, April 1, 2022. And tonight I am announcing my plan to retire in November of this year. I joined city staff in November of 1992, so that was coming up on 32 years ago, and this is so difficult, and I'm not going to ramble on tonight about my decision, but it's time, and I've thoroughly enjoyed not just working for the city here, but living here. And I moved into Oakwood, to 323 Clarana, about 5 months before joining staff, and lived there for a number of years, lived on Grandin Road, and now I've been down on Volusia for quite a while, and raised my 2 children here and benefited from the Oakwood schools like so many do here in Oakwood, and my 3 stepchildren, and just it's been a wonderful, wonderful community to both live in and work for. But I do need to announce tonight my plan, and that's 6-7 months away. I want to give council enough time to work through the process of selecting a replacement, and I commit to you all and to the city that I will work until the day I walk out of here sometime in November. So,
Well, does anyone have any comments they would like to say at this point? All right. I will say that it's hard to believe that since 1931, when we started the council manager form of government, he is only our 5th city manager. And so he will be definitely missed, and city council takes our responsibility for trying to find a replacement, because I'm not certain he's replaceable, but we will be able to do that duty to the best of our ability as well. And congratulations to you on your retirement, and look forward to working with you for 6 more months. Okay. Now I get to read some proclamations. My first proclamation is recognizing the month of April 2024 as Parkinson's Awareness Month, whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease and is the 2nd most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States. Whereas Parkinson's disease is estimated to affect approximately 1 million people in the United States, and the prevalence will rise to 1.2 million by 2030. Whereas 90,000 new people are diagnosed each year in the United States with Parkinson's disease. Whereas Parkinson's disease is the 14th leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Whereas it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease is at least $52 billion annually, including direct and indirect costs, including treatment, Social Security payments, and lost income to patients and family members. And whereas research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and progression of the disease are still unknown. And whereas there is no objective test or biomarker for the Parkinson's disease, and there is no cure or drug to slow or halt the progression of the disease. Whereas the symptoms of Parkinson's disease vary from person to person and can include tremors, slowness of movement and rigidity, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, and speaking, cognitive impairment and dementia, mood disorders, and a variety of other non-motor symptoms. Whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families, and whereas increased research, education, and community support services, such as those provided by the Parkinson's Foundation and other organizations, are needed to find more effective treatments and to provide access to quality care to those living with the disease today. Now therefore, under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Parkinson's Awareness Month. And I'm sure that all the members of council know someone who has suffered from that disease. My former partner in my CPA firm is still dealing with it, and as they say, it is slow and progressive, and it's difficult to deal with. My next proclamation, I find it here we go, is recognizing the month of April as Fair Housing Month. Whereas April 11, 2024 marks the 56th anniversary of the passage of the U.S. Fair Housing Law, Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 as amended, which enunciated a national policy of fair housing without regard to race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, or disability, and encourages fair housing opportunities for all citizens. Whereas the principle of fair housing is not only law, but a basic human necessity and an inalienable right inscribed in the Constitution of the State of Ohio. Whereas the Miami Valley Fair Housing Center is engaged in passionately pursuing its mission to eliminate housing discrimination in the Miami Valley, the state of Ohio, and nationally. Whereas the Miami Valley Fair Housing Center has been recognized regionally, statewide, and nationally for its creativity and effectiveness in pursuing its mission. Whereas the Miami Valley Fair Housing Center and the Dayton Realtors are committed to continuing to address housing discrimination in the Miami Valley. And whereas April is traditionally designated as Fair Housing Month by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, in order to highlight the Fair Housing Law, Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, as amended. Now therefore, under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, in commemoration of the 56th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, do hereby urge all citizens to understand and exercise their right to equal housing opportunity and proclaim the month of April 2024 as Fair Housing Month. And I have one more. Two more. And this proposal is recognizing the week of April 22nd, 2024 as Arbor Week. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and is observed in the state of Ohio on the last Friday in April. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, reduce heating and cooling cost, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, and beautify our community. Whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Oakwood has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 42nd consecutive year and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, do hereby proclaim the week of April 22nd, 2024 as Arbor Week in the City of Oakwood, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our city's urban forestry program. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. My last proclamation is recognizing April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month. I'm getting it here, all right. Whereas Care House is a children's advocacy center for children and families affected by abuse in Montgomery County, Ohio. And whereas Care House's mission is to provide a multidisciplinary team response to child abuse for the purpose of protecting and supporting children and their non-offending family members, holding offenders accountable, and educating the community. Whereas since opening in 1999, Care House has served over 11,500 child victims of abuse and over 9,000 families who have been affected by abuse in Montgomery County. Nearly 1,000 children were served by Care House in 2021, an average of 80 children per month. Whereas child abuse and neglect are a serious problem affecting every community, and finding solutions require input and action from everyone. Whereas communities must make every effort to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. Whereas in 2008, Prevent Child Abuse America started using pinwheels to signify a vision where all children are able to grow up in supportive families and communities. Pinwheels are a reminder of the role we all play in children's lives. Whereas throughout the month of April, pinwheels will be placed in Oakwood, on Far Hills Avenue and Schaefer Avenue, as an uplifting symbol of childhood and to represent the city's support of collective efforts to ensure the healthy development of children. Now therefore, under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, hereby proclaim April 2024 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Oakwood. Joining us here tonight, we have two special visitors. We have Tori Rule and Amy Van Verth, who would like to speak to us regarding the pinwheels for the National Child Abuse Awareness. Welcome, ladies.
Good evening. Well, first off, we want to thank you for your continued support at Care House. It means so much to us that communities like yours are willing to, go out and support our efforts. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a lot of pinwheels going on in Oakwood. Tori and I were out and about in Oakwood last Friday for quite some time. Beautiful day. We really enjoyed it. We want to say that on the 10th of April, that is Wear Blue. So please, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, wear blue so that you can be supporting us. In addition to our pinwheels, this year we've added something new. We have added these, which are window clings. So this, we kind of had some businesses say, oh, well, we wish we could support you with pinwheels, but we can't because we don't have, that land outside. So we came up with Plan B, and that would be this. So if anybody has any businesses and they would love to show their support for Care House, we definitely have some with us. Please, let us know so that we can help distribute those. The other thing that I thought I would mention tonight is that my position at Care House is new. I'm the Awareness and Outreach Specialist. We haven't had anybody in that role since COVID, due to funding and on all the things that happened for the pandemic. I am new and working on prevention, so working with the schools, with Aaron's Law, ensuring that the kids and the teachers get the appropriate training that they should for child abuse, and outreach in the communities, whether it be going to community meetings to talk about what we do, or go to smaller organizations to work with those individuals so that they can help create policies that will prevent child abuse in whatever organization they're in.
My name's Tori Rule. I'm a social worker at Care House. I work on that multidisciplinary team, and I interview some of the most vulnerable children in Montgomery County to help serve and protect them. And we appreciate the support of Oakwood and Terry Jones the last few years. And it's just a blessing that we can drive through Oakwood and see your guys' support for child abuse prevention.
Thank you. Does anybody have council have any questions for
I'll
Amy
take
and
one of
Cory?
the signs for my business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we'll leave some here in case anybody else
All right.
would like them.
Thank-
We have plenty.
Okay. I signed the proclamation that I just read, and our clerk of council, Lori Stasel, has that for you, so you can take that with you, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of this cause, which is clearly of a need in
And
Montgomery
we
County.
thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you. And next, we have another special visitor. Madeline Isley is here to present the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition's 2023 annual report. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. Very much appreciate that. Thank you to Care House and to the city for your partnership with that effort. They are truly joyful. I love the pinwheels, and I especially love how they symbolize the caring of this community, which is a great segue to my annual report of the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition. It is indeed my honor to be here to report to you. I thank my Oakwood Inclusion Coalition leadership team colleague, Joshua Green, for joining me here today. And thank you to Rob for serving as such a great liaison with the city of Oakwood. All right, I guess I can use this, right, Lori? Oh, needs to be on. That helps. Maybe? There we go. Ah, here we go. Oh, no, now we're good. Hey, whoa. Okay, there we are. I'll just give you the cue. How's that? Okay, these are the subjects that I'm going to be covering. So let's go ahead and start with number one, administrative matters. Again, we continue to function very conservatively in terms of our finances, and I'll have some figures on that to show you in just a minute. But we very much appreciate the coordination with the city, with the Oakwood schools, and with Wright Memorial Public Library. And our website continues to be our main function of providing communication. There are about 440 subscribers to our e-newsletter, which is a really terrific way to get the word out and to engage the community These are mostly Oakwood residents, but not exclusively. We have others from throughout the community who are also interested in inclusion activities and staying up staying up on the news with those activities as well. Next. So yes, you've seen the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition represented in a number of events right here in our own hometown, including the photo on the bottom there is the Crowing Inclusion Scarecrow Row edition that we assembled that evening. And in fact, we had a really lovely social gathering there at the Crowing Inclusion display. And we've had teams from OIC participate in a number of regional activities. The photo on the top there, of course, is in January at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial March downtown. Next. In addition, we have really enjoyed some strong partnership with Wright Memorial Public Library, particularly on several workshops with the Braver Angels. And I really credit Josh for bringing those opportunities to us. The photo on the bottom of that slide shows us, that was an all day on a Saturday. The OIC provided lunch for those participants, and it was a red-blue workshop. And it was really so meaningful that Randy Honecker, the chair of the Wright Memorial Public Library, reached out to me asking if I would be willing, on behalf of the OIC, to jointly write a letter, which you may have seen in the Oakwood Register, and then which was reprinted, actually, by the League of Women Voters and Braver Angels as well. So those are the kinds of activities, getting people together, learning more about each other, learning about different perspectives, different views, and how we can all continue to work together to make this an even stronger community. Those have been very, very meaningful. Next. As I promised, we've had really virtually no expenditures, but we've very strong financial standing. And this year, we are going to focus on engaging with the community, in some cases one-on-one, in some cases with small focus groups, to hear and understand where the citizens of this community would like the OIC to move next. What other kinds of programs, what other kinds of activities. And meanwhile, we will continue to solicit support for those activities as the right activities become identified. Next. So in closing, I just want to again express tremendous appreciation for the city, for the Oakwood schools, for the Wright Memorial Public Library. Also couldn't do what we do without the help and the reach of the Oakwood Register. That's a great partner in sharing the good word. And then finally, I want to give a special thanks. 3 of our members, and you have, I think at your places, a copy of the actual annual report, and if you flip to the back, 3 of our Oakwood Inclusion Coalition leadership team members had to step away this past year, all of them for 3 very different reasons, and all very understandable, not the least of which is Healy Jackson, former OIC leadership team member, of course now member of our city council. So thank you to Healy. Thanks to Dan, to Lee. Please share with him our public thanks. Dan literally bought the crows for the crowing inclusion display. He insisted, no, I'm going to buy those crows. And he did. It was great. And
But that's all he did.
no, he helped us string them up, too. I think he brought a ladder over. And then, of course, Mike Miller. Many of you know Mike. So thank you again to the city and to all of our wonderful citizen partners as we continue to celebrate and commemorate how welcoming and inclusive this community is.
Any questions for Madeline?
I
I'd
have
like
one
to.
question.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
ma'am.
And this is based on working with you, but I believe strongly that perhaps the most important thing that the OIC does is sending out the monthly bulletins, because it's the mission to educate people about what's going on in the region. They have any interest, it enables them to be engaged. And I think that that's the real purpose of the OIC, is just to increase awareness and welcome engagement. And if you do that alone, I think that the organization has great merit.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll build on that, and that I consider myself somebody who is pretty well versed in what's going on in the community. But every time I read that newsletter, there's always something that I'm just not aware of or that I haven't heard about. So I really do appreciate that exposure to some of the things that I might not have normally known about.
And it's been 15 long years ago since you co-chaired our Oakwood Centennial celebration. Not to date you. You did a very good job, though, with your education background, saying, next slide, next slide. I was very impressed watching that, but I spent too much time watching C-SPAN, I guess. But anyway, we appreciate all your efforts, not just that, but everything else you've been doing, and not just for little tiny Oakwood, but our whole Miami Valley region. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Mayor. That's
Okay.
very, very kind of you.
Okay.
And thank you for the comments, too, on the e-newsletter. I believe exactly what you said, Steve, that you learn new things, even as involved as you are in the greater community. I am certain that's why there are many subscribers who are not from Oakwood, because they too learn. And what a great way to demonstrate Oakwood's participation in the greater region as well. So thank you. And thank you, Mayor. That's very kind
Thank
of
you,
you.
ma'am. We appreciate it very
All right.
much.
Good night.
Okay. Now, we still have time for our visitor section. If there's anyone else out in the crowd that would like to address council at this time, this would be your opportunity to come up to our podium and state your name and address for the record, and we would welcome you. Seeing none, hearing none, going once, going twice. Okay, okay. Well then, yeah, we'll have our meeting after the council meeting. Okay, great. So that'll conclude the visitors portion of our meeting, and we will next go into legislation. And Councilmember Stevens has a multitude of ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. An ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio by lighting the same with electricity. This is an annual ordinance that is the second step of our 2025 street lighting program. It is the ordinance that authorizes the city to proceed with the project. It was introduced with a first reading at our March 4 council meeting. This is the second reading of the ordinance, and I move the council adopt it tonight.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any questions or comments for Councilmember Stevens? Hearing none. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Jackson?
Yes.
You still have the floor, Councilmember Stevens?
Yes, an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio by lighting the same with electricity. This is the third and final step of our 2025 street lighting program. It allows for the costs of street lighting to be certified to the Montgomery County Auditor for assessment. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
Thank you.
An ordinance determining to proceed with the repairing of sidewalks and appurtenances thereto on certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio, and providing that abutting property owners repair the same. This is an annual ordinance that is the second step of our 2024 sidewalk curb and driveway apron project. This year's program area covers Far Hills Avenue through the main business district, from Peach Orchard Road to the south corporate limit, as well as the first block of most of the side streets that intersect with Far Hills Avenue through the business district. It was introduced with a first reading at our March 4 council meeting. As this is the second reading of this ordinance, I move that council adopt it this evening.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments for Councilmember Stevens? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Jackson?
Yes.
Back to you, Councilmember Stevens.
An ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction or reconstruction of sidewalks and appurtenances thereto in the city of Oakwood, Ohio. This ordinance is the third piece of legislation for last year's sidewalk repair project, authorizing the assessment of the sidewalk repair costs that have not been paid directly by the affected homeowners. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
Thank you. Now, Vice Mayor Byington also has a string of ordinances
I
you would like
do.
to introduce.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an ordinance adopting the 2025 tax budget for the city of Oakwood for the fiscal year beginning January 2025. This is basically to comply with Section 6.01 of the city charter. This is an annual housekeeping ordinance to estimate the city's revenues and expenses for the calendar year 2025. This is also a first reading of this ordinance, so I'm not going to make a motion at this time.
Thank you.
Next, I have an ordinance amending provisions of Chapter 12 of signs of the Oakwood zoning ordinance so as to clarify the regulatory exemption for certain flags and to specify a method for calculating the sign face area of temporary signs installed as lawn signs. This is the first reading of an ordinance to amend our zoning code. It would make two changes to the sign regulations. First, it would clarify the regulatory exemption for certain flags to ensure that the exemption is content neutral. Second, it would update how we calculate the sign face area of temporary lawn signs, treating them as being single-sided. The Planning Commission reviewed these proposed changes at a public hearing on March 6th and has recommended that they be approved by council. Council will do a second reading of the ordinance and conduct its own public hearing at our next meeting on May 6th. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
Thank you.
Next, I have an ordinance amending section 1171.09 lot splits, of which no plat is required, of the Oakwood subdivision code, so as to clarify the process for administrative review and approval of certain minor subdivisions without requiring a formal plat. This is an ordinance to amend the subdivision code so that minor lot splits and consolidations can be approved administratively. The city manager already has authority to do this in many cases, but as written, the code requires a deed or instrument of conveyance for these minor adjustments. As a result, this streamlined administrative approval is not available in situations where no conveyance is taking place. A common example in Oakwood happens when the owner of a double lot wishes to consolidate them into a single parcel. There is no conveyance because neither lot is changing ownership. They are simply being merged under the same ownership. This is a common sense amendment that eliminates any unnecessary formal review process. It will allow for these kind of boundary adjustments to be made more quickly and at a lower cost to the property owner. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
All right, thank you.
And finally, I believe, hopefully, this is an ordinance to amend Section 1 of the 2024 Original Appropriation Ordinance Number 4985 and any existing supplements thereto to provide for the appropriation of an additional amount of $31,254.89 to be expended from the Fire Insurance Trust Fund as a release of security for the repair of residential premises damaged by fire. This is a supplemental appropriation ordinance that is necessary to address fire insurance proceeds that came into the city's possession after council adopted the 2024 budget and appropriation ordinance. As required by the state of Ohio, Oakwood established a fire insurance trust fund in 1981. The fund functions much like an escrow account, except that it is a non-interest bearing. When a property in the city is damaged by fire, the property owner's insurance company sends a portion of the insurance proceeds to the city. We hold it in the fire insurance trust fund until repairs are completed, and then it is turned over to the insured property owner, minus any cost the cities might incur to secure or make the structure safe before repairs are completed. In November, there was a fire at 447 Orchard Avenue that resulted in an insured loss, and the city recently received $31,249.89 from the owner's insurance company. Supplemental appropriation will allow us to disperse that money to the property owner after the repairs are completed and make any deductions required by law. Under Section 3.04 of the city charter, this ordinance will take effect upon its passage, so I move that council waive the second reading and adopt this ordinance tonight.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Vice Mayor Byington? Hearing none. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes our legislation for this evening. We have a staff report from our Public Works Department, and Doug Spittler is here to talk to us, and we welcome you, Doug.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's my honor and privilege to give you an update on what we've been working on in Public Works and to give you an outline of the goals we have for this summer. I know Chris Kuzma was just here last month giving you an update on engineering, so I've pulled out a lot of that content, and I'll give you an update on one project, the large storm sewer project that we have going on in town. Been out of town for a couple days, but I did drive and see it on the way in, so it is an ongoing process. It's a very challenging project for the community. It's a challenging project for the area because of Far Hills Avenue. This picture shows just one complexity. This is looking west towards 1313, where the large excavator is sitting is southbound Far Hills. In the foreground there is a small picture. You can see a gentleman with a hard hat on at the end of that pipe. That just shows you how large that hole in excavation is. And above and behind him, the part that's circled in blue is the 10-inch water main that is suspended in that excavation. And then the two yellow are an old abandoned gas main that was cut out. Now this is a challenging part of the job because right behind the excavator are two large duct banks that contain AT&T fiber and communications cable. And it's just very full of utilities. So it's very challenging. I see that they're still working in that area. This last piece is what will connect the two because behind the excavator, they've already got the storm sewer in that goes downstream to the outlet on Devereaux. So they are working diligently, but as the complexities get greater, even as they go behind the excavator shown in the photo, it's very challenging. So the contractor is working to get the project completed. We do anticipate opening Far Hills potentially by the end of this week. I need to check with the contractor tomorrow to make sure, but that is their goal, at least when we left last week. So keep our fingers crossed this week. If not, it'll be early next week. There is a final piece on Ford Boulevard that will happen. It will go from Far Hills up to East Shantz, and that's a small piece that feeds into the storm sewer, but this is the major trunk of the storm sewer system. So our Center Point gas line improvements, we don't have any to show this year. So after 13 years, we have finally gotten the project complete. Shouldn't say we, they have done the project. It was a community-wide project. It touched almost every street in the city of Oakwood. Just a reminder, it was the old cast iron, bare steel cast iron lines, just like we have the water lines made out of that material. They had gas lines made out of the material, starting to fail, starting to have leaks. Aging infrastructure, so they replaced all of those mains, and then they also replaced services to the homes, moved the gas meters to the outside of the homes. So it was, project started in 2010 and just ended last year. So the contractor, while it was very impactful to the community, the contractor was very good to work with. CenterPoint was very good to work with. Now we're just doing any kind of touch-up that they have or any other maintenance projects that they have. So the large, disruptive projects in neighborhoods are complete. Fire hydrant flushing. This is an annual maintenance project that we do. This simply involves flushing the fire hydrants. So we published the areas. We basically start on the west side of Far Hills and we work north. And then the following couple of weeks, April 15th to the May 3rd, we work on the east side of Far Hills from the north to the south. This just involves running water out of the fire hydrants to flush the hydrants. We also operate them to make sure they're functional, check the valves, and lubricate the fittings and the valves. Our refuse and recycling. This is one of our most comprehensive projects or services that we have in the city of Oakwood. We continue to have multiple ways for people to dispose of recycling and for their yard waste. So we have our 24/7, 365 yard waste and refuse recycling center at our Public Works facility. It's the entrance, it's open 24 hours a day. We accept cardboard that's separated into the dumpsters. We also accept the commingled recycling that people can put out at their homes. We also take yard debris. We also have our monthly self-dumping at the Public Works yard. That's every first Saturday from 8 to noon. People can bring extra debris that they would in a special pickup for drop-off. This time of year, it's very popular for dumpsters. We rent dumpsters. They are free for green waste, if it's green waste only, so any kind of yard debris that they have. Or we do have a dumpster rental program that if people have their own home remodeling projects, no contractor debris, but just home remodeling projects, there is a fee. It's $115 and plus the weight of the dumpster. Very popular program. At the end of leaf collection season, the contractor hauls the leaf and they make leaf mulch, which is then provided back to Oakwood. We provide leaf mulch on 5 Saturdays. It's the first Saturday beginning April the 13th through the next 5 Saturdays, the 20th, 27th, May the 4th, and May the 11th. It is free for Oakwood residents to come in and pick up that material if they would like to haul it and gather it themselves. If they would like the delivery, we offer 3 cubic yards for $100 or 6 cubic yards for $150. The leaves are turned into the leaf mulch, and it's more of a composting mulch. Styrofoam recycling continues to be very popular. Our Green Oakwood community members, they partner with Montgomery County Solid Waste. The next 2 events, one coming up on Saturday, April the 13th. The main event that the county provides is at the Rose Music Center from 9 to 1. Green Oakwood will take collections at our refuse and recycling center at the entrance to Public Works from 9 to 11:30, and they'll transport that to the Rose Music Center for residents. Then on Saturday, July the 20th, same, except the location is at the Welcome Stadium, 9 to 1. Green Oakwood will post the hours on our Facebook page or our website. Another very popular program for the community is the Oakwood Rotary Club Hazardous Waste Collection. Residents can take their material on the first Tuesday of every month down to the Montgomery County Recycling Center, or they can call and leave a message to the number 937-296-5155. That comes to the Public Works Center. And we collect the names and addresses and materials for those who wish to get rid of any kind of household hazardous waste. Items such as paint, it's very popular, pesticides, batteries, fertilizers, pool chemicals, anything except for hazardous, extreme hazardous waste. So all of the household chemicals that a resident comes across are taken by the Rotary members. The next event is Saturday, April the 20th. A few purchases that we have made or are in the process of making. This is a new wheel loader, so this replaced one of our 3 loaders. We now have 3 loaders to use for all types of work. This one will be used, actually I'll show you in the next picture. This one's going to be dedicated to the Mr. Manhole machine. So I think council saw videos of the Mr. Manhole manhole adjusting tool. So this machine here is a non-articulating unit, so it means that the wheels turn, the machine does not. Very good for getting into tight spaces. So it's an all-wheel steer unit, so in our tight streets we can maneuver this machine around, or in our yard. It will be used for salt because it has an extending boom. It's actually a telescoping boom, so it'll help stack salt in our yard as well as our debris pile that we collect from residents. So this is a brand new loader that we just acquired in January. Purchase price for this machine was $115,000. So there's the Mr. Manhole unit. So this is what we viewed the video on. So this is a unit. The silver legs there, those are removable. That's just a stand that it sits on. So the gold legs that you see there and those curved pieces on the bottom are large carbide teeth. So that's the unit that cuts out around the manhole. And then there's other tools that we use to set the manhole so that we get a very perfect ride across manholes. So the thud and the thump that you get across inappropriately adjusted manholes is eliminated with this machine. So the new loader has the lifting capacity and hydraulic capacity to operate this new piece of equipment for us. So we're anxious to use it. We're waiting for the asphalt plants to open, which is very soon, to try it out. We are going to try it in our yard first to get the technique down and make sure we get everybody trained on it appropriately, and then we're going to take it to the street. So this is a stock picture that I have. It's not an actual photo, but we are acquiring a new street sweeper this year. This is another articulated steering, all-wheel steering, as it shows in the picture. It has an all-wheel steering. We kind of call it, looks like a Zamboni. So it really helps, in addition to that third brush that sticks out there, that sways back and forth so that we can do median sweeping, we can do curb sweeping, and we have the ability now to get around very tight radii. We're looking forward to receiving this unit. We have ordered it, and it should be in, they told us by the end of March, so I haven't seen it yet, but we'll be taking delivery of that here in the next month or so. The price for the street sweeper is $268,465, so it's a very expensive piece of machinery, but very useful in the city of Oakwood. We like to have the street sweeper running the streets every month if we can, and with weather like we're supposed to have, it doesn't take long for the streets to really fill up with debris. So I think a brand new street sweeper will really help us keep the city looking great. I've shown this picture before, and I love this quote from a resident. This was a resident, it was a new resident back in August of 2023, called it an innovative refuse removal system, and I couldn't agree more. Just traveling outside the city here the last couple of days, and believe me, to have the ability to go backdoor service with the scooters that's shown on the right, with the split beds so that we can separate refuse and recycling, backdoor service once a week, and then it tips and it dumps on the refuse truck. We have 2 of the refuse trucks on the left, the third as a backup, and we have 8 scooters that are shown on the right. To have that kind of service and to provide this service, it keeps our community very clean. Compared to what I saw, it's unbelievable, and I'm very happy to be back in beautiful Oakwood in our region. It's great. So these scooters help us do a top-notch job, and I'm very proud that we still keep that in-house. So this is my busy graph. It shows a lot. What basically it helps us do, it helps us budget for refuse and recycling costs. So the graph is just our refuse that's collected. It's everything that we collect. It just shows us a trend, and it shows us that it's very predictable within a certain degree of accuracy, helps us predict the cost. So we track our annual use. We track all kinds of data that goes into this chart. So behind this, there's a spreadsheet that's really large. It has a lot of data to it, but it boils down to it helps us budget. We get very accurate annual refuse and commingling tonnage, and we can predict and budget for that. So our average annual refuse is 3,504 tons. And last year, we were at 3,259 tons with a disposal price at $38.25. That's been unchanged at the county. So that really helps us budget for appropriately for our disposal fees. That's the tipping fees that we pay to the county to dispose of our waste. And then the commingled recycling, 552 tons is our average. We were down a little bit with 456 tons last year. And our price to dispose of the recycling is $35 per ton, and we take that to Rumpke. As I mentioned earlier, we have the refuse and recycling drop-off center, and the 4 cardboard recycling dumpsters that we have are strictly for cardboard. That's clean, separated cardboard. and we take that to Rumpke as well, we do receive income and revenue for that. It varies based upon the market price. We have a price quoted that they have with a minimum of 0. So we could get as little as 0, but we're not paying to dispose of it. And we do receive some income. Last year it was quite a bit less, about half, just because of the market. It was less than $7,000. And in 2022, it's $13,000. The word that we're hearing is that OCC, old corrugated cardboard is what they call it in the market, is going up. The demand is going up, so we're hoping to see the revenue increase. I'll watch that closely to see. But that basically is everything that we get from those 4 cardboard dumpsters. And you can see that our trend is up. Now, I'm sure that we'll plateau at some point, but it's a very nice trend to keep seeing that folks recycle. They use that facility a lot. That's right out our front door, so anytime that we're driving in and out, there's always somebody there, if not multiple people there at the same time. So it's a very highly used facility. That's the facility that used to be at the dog park. And again, separating those was a great idea. The dog park gets used a lot. There's not that intermix of traffic. And people use this recycle center, and for the most part, use it appropriately. The sewer cleaning is something that we just introduced this last year. We hired a couple of folks to take the responsibility of our sewer cleaning to do more of a proactive instead of a reactive approach. So this is mainly our sanitary sewer. There is some storm sewer cleaning that we do. They typically don't require the cleaning that the sanitary sewer does. Sanitary sewer cleaning can also help prevent basement backups. So we have about 40 miles of sanitary sewer that's underground, 211,000 feet. Our goal was to clean the entire system, about 70,000 feet in 3 years. And I'm proud to report after year 1, we've cleaned more than half of the system. So it's just getting off to a good start. We've got a couple of good employees that's working on it. They have a very good attitude towards it. Very difficult job. A lot of the sanitary sewers in their rear yards. So there's sheds, garages, gardens, fences that they have to deal with. And so it's difficult to access. It's not a glamorous job, but it's very necessary. We do also proactively check some trouble spots throughout the city. There's a few places where we have a siphon, so it's not on a straight slope. And so it's like a trap in your house, so we have to check those more regularly. So we do proactively check those spots, and we have seen our numbers go down on any kind of reports for any kind of city backup. We've also, this is a picture of our video camera. So this trailer here houses a camera system. It's a small camera system that's on a track. It's like a little tank. Stainless steel, very ruggedized for going into sewers. It actually goes into the sewer, so a lot of times they'll have to clean the sewer first, and then they run the camera through it. We videoed almost 1 mile of sanitary sewer. Helps us find connections. We've also used it for storm sewer with the project that I mentioned earlier to find different connections and abandoned connections. So it's been very, very useful. So our winter operations, we have about 400 tons of salt in stock right now, which is good. I think Chris mentioned last month we're looking to build a new salt storage facility. So this is kind of a goal. We want to keep that low so that we don't have to transport or temporarily store the salt, but we don't want to run out. We used 564 tons this year. That's through the season. That's not the calendar year. That's the season. So when we got the first snowfall to the last snowfall, approximately December through March, compared to 741 tons last year, again, season. Current salt cost is pretty high, $91.62 per ton, and that's through the end of July. We partner with SWAP 4G, Southwest Ohio Purchasers for Government, for a consortium of purchasing salt, and they will be going out to bid again, and we'll be anxious to see what the price does. I think usage has been fairly average the last couple of years, but I know the price of diesel fuel does add to that and is a big factor in it, so we'll see if it stays the same or hopefully comes down. Previous years was $83.98, and then 2 years ago was $54.98. So you can see the volatility in the salt market. It's very, very flexible, very fluid. So it helps us, again, kind of like the refuse and the recycling, trying to track our tons. It's very variable, as we know, with weather. But we try to look at those averages and have the appropriate amount in store and then budget appropriately. And finally, some personnel changes. Unfortunately, the last couple of times I've had to report some sad news, and we continue. If anyone remembers Kirby Donovan, he worked 33 years for us. He worked a lot in the water and wastewater industry. He retired November the 30th last year. Unfortunately, passed away just February the 6th. So Kirby was well known around the community. Spent a lot of time here, had a lot of notes on our storm and sewer, water atlas sheets, and it's a lot of handwritten notes. So there's a lot of good information that he had. Mike Kingdom has announced his retirement. Mike's been with us for 34 years. Mike is now our loader driver. So if you see anyone out in the loader right now, it's probably Mike. We're looking forward to celebrating Mike, and I know he's taking some vacation time. So his last day was actually last Friday. I saw him out on Wednesday where I left for vacation. We have one new employee since the last time I reported, Danny Phillips Jr., the general service worker. He is working on one of the scooters in refuse. He started on October the 9th. He's a great addition. He's doing very well. And then we currently have 2 general service workers that we're recruiting for and we've made offers for. We have not gotten through the complete process, so I won't announce their names. We have 2 candidates that are very, very eager and look very good for our community. So with that concludes my report. If there are any questions.
Any questions for Doug?
Yeah, Doug, how often are you going to, the sanitary sewer cleaning? You said you were through it halfway. You were thinking 3 years. Looks like you might get done in 2 years. If you'll stop, I assume. How often are you planning on doing this? I mean, you're not going to wait another 10 or 15 years.
We're not. No, we're going to keep going back around.
I'll just start over again. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions?
No, thorough.
So,
thorough.
I guess so on April 13th, you bring your styrofoam down there and you pick up your mulch.
That is correct.
2 for 1, 2 for 1 day.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that
Thank you.
report. It
Thanks,
was
Doug.
very informative.
Thank you.
Okay. It is now time for our city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple quick things. Last month, when Chris was done with our engineering report, I mentioned that in all the years I've been here, it seems like we never finish, in terms of rebuilding and improving the community. And when I listened to Doug tonight, I'll tell you all the services that he oversees the delivery of, it never ends either. And it's a wide variety of different things we do, and it's a complicated little department to manage. It really is, just based on all that we do. And in rough numbers, we have about 100 employees, between the full-time and permanent part-time, roughly. And Doug oversees about a third of them in his department. And Chief Hill's here tonight, and he has about a third of them as well. So those 2 gentlemen really see to it in terms of service delivery in those 2 very important areas, public safety and public works. So thank you. The planning for that day in May it began 3 or 4 months ago, believe it or not, and I want to thank Carol Collins. She is our liaison to the Rotary Group, and she attends most all the planning meetings and make sure we keep on top of the parts of that important celebration that the city's responsible for. And Lieutenant Damian Baggett this year, I think, is the officer from our safety department who's the lead in terms of coordinating matters that involve public safety. Most significantly for that is the runs around the community and the protection of all the folks that are running. And my last comment, we're approaching the time of year that I love the most here in Oakwood. April, May, the community just, as you know, comes alive, and that's in large part thanks to Carol Collins, Brian Caldwell, and the folks that are responsible for all that beautification work that is underway now and will continue over the next few weeks. That's all I have.
Any questions for our city manager? All right, it's then time for council comments. Councilmember Jackson.
Well, I know much will be said about Norb's retirement, but I have to comment that I know I'm new to council, but I was on the planning commission for 10 years, and I could always count on Norb for good information. And I think what I respect the most is his high integrity and his friendship. So we've got a big job to do. On a different note, I'm the liaison with the Oakwood Historical Society, so I want to say something about the annual Right at Home tour that takes place on April 28th from noon to 4, and you can get your tickets by going on the website. But I think that you can go to Hawthorne Hill throughout the year, but what makes this a unique experience is that you get to meet the Wright brothers and neighbors. And so many of them are remarkable themselves. And it helps put the period of history into context with knowing what the neighbors were up to at the same time. So I encourage everyone to go to that. And finally, I want to express how much I enjoyed meeting the new residents at the new residents breakfast. These are the people that make our very traditional city change slowly, and I appreciate their contribution, and they were so excited to learn all about what Oakwood is interested in. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Turbin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I certainly second what Healy said about Norb. My first reaction was, I can't imagine Oakwood without Norb, but we do wish you well. But I wanted to talk about the solar eclipse, if you aren't already exploding with it. But this will be my second solar eclipse, and so I wanted just to give you a few tips. You know, given the popularity of it, there's going to be a lot of traffic and a lot of closings. I know our schools are closing down for that day, and even DLM is closing for a half an hour. So if you're planning to go somewhere, start early and call ahead to make sure that, that they're going to be open. And as you know, when you're outside looking at the solar eclipse, it's imperative that you wear those special glasses. You know it can cause permanent damage to your eyes if you look at the solar eclipse without them. And regular sunglasses don't work. And it is sad to say, though, is that there are some fraudulent solar eclipse glasses. And the thing to look for, brought a prop here. In the stem of the glasses, it will tell you if they are ISO approved, and so you'll have to read that there, but make sure you do that. How sad is that, that somebody's gonna, you know, put out glasses that may harm your eyes? And since the next solar eclipse doesn't happen for another 20 years or so, I'm sure you're gonna be wanting to take pictures. There are some experts that say that taking pictures with your cell phone, the light is so bright that it actually can damage the lens. And so there's, on Amazon, you can buy a filter that you put in front of your lens, of your iPhone. But I've also read that you can take an extra pair of glasses and put them, I don't have my phone out, but you can put that over the lens like that. So there's your makeshift lens. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to remind you is you can only take the glasses off during totality. That's when the moon completely covers the sun. And a lot of people have said, well, how did you know when it was safe to take your glasses off? And there are a couple things. First of all, it gets totally dark outside. It's like it's 8 o'clock at night and it's the middle of the afternoon. The second thing we experienced is that the temperature will drop 10 to 20 degrees, so all of a sudden it's kind of chilly, and there's this weird air about it. And they say that this solar eclipse can do weird things with animals. They say that birds will go to roost because they think it's time to go to bed, and it does strange things for dogs and cats. Interestingly enough, the Akron Zoo is having a special event for the solar eclipse so that people can actually see the effect of the solar eclipse on the animals. So, and before you ask me, you do not need to get solar glasses for your dogs and cats. They say that they're smart enough to know not to look at the sun. So enjoy the event, but always put safety first.
Councilmember Stevens.
I was not expecting a thorough report on the solar eclipse. That was very impressive. I was not expecting I will not talk about the solar eclipse. All I want to say is real simple, is that I want to be the first to publicly congratulate Mr. Norbert Klopsch. I'm very happy for you, and you made the comment about you promised to work hard your last 6 months till the day you leave. That was never a question in my mind. In the 15 years, well, my whole life I've been involved, I've lived in the city, but 15 years being involved on council, I've never met anyone who's more passionate about the city. And I have complete faith that you will work hard as you ever have been, and I have faith that you will enjoy your family once you are done, and I'm very happy for you. So congratulations again.
Vice Mayor Byington.
Yes, I would also say that I learned a lot about the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of dumb now that I bought glasses for my dogs. But besides that, I will say that Norb, as a council member, I'm sad that you'll no longer be bringing your passion and your professionalism to the role here for the city. But I'll say, as your friend, I'm thrilled for you. I genuinely am. I know how much family means to you and how much that's going to be important to you. But I'm just thrilled to know that you're going to be able to take that passion you have for your own kind of things and work on those. So very happy for you. And then the last thing, I just want to say hi to my sister, who came up from San Antonio to visit. I'm very fortunate to be the big brother to 3 great sisters. And like all siblings, we have our ups and downs or whatever. But, other than my sister Debbie, who's 2 years older than Sandy, they have been my best friends for longer than anybody else in the entire world. So I'm just happy that she's here. So.
Well, thank you. I know one thing that I saw about the solar eclipse on the Channel 7 News, and I think the source was the Ohio Highway Patrol. They said, when you're driving your car, do not wear your solar eclipse glasses. So evidently, dogs and cats are in fact smarter than humans. So, but again, right. And again, in addition to echoing the comments of the other members of council, I've had the unique opportunity of going with Norb for well nigh on 15 years to the Mayors and Managers Association here, which consists of mayors and city managers from both Miami County, Shelby County, Montgomery and Greene, and occasionally Springboro shows up, but rarely. What impressed me so much about that is the amount of respect that those other mayors and managers have for Norb and his expertise and just the way there's a reason why we have an outstanding city council, and it's because Norb knows not only how to manage subordinates but also superiors. And you've done one heck of a job in managing us, and we appreciate it. We really do. So our next meeting is going to be on Monday, May 6th, and we are now adjourned. Thank you.